The sin of one man almost destroyed the entire village. You won't believe why an ancient giant python swallowed Adisa. Many years ago, there was a peaceful village called Omiala. Omiala was a land of blessing. The soil was rich and dark. Whatever was planted grew well. Yam barns were full. Palm trees stood tall and proud. A clear river flowed gently around the village. At night, the river made soft sounds like it was singing old songs to the moon. Women fetched water without fear. Fishermen returned home smiling. Children ran barefoot on the red earth. They played from morning till evening. Their laughter filled the air. No child went to bed hungry. No mother cried without help. The elders settled disputes under the big Iroko tree. No one was cheated. No one was above the law. Justice lived among the people, and peace slept in every home. The village was ruled by King Adekunle, a wise and respected ruler. He was not a loud man. He listened more than he spoke. His words were few, but they carried weight. When he judged a matter, even the guilty accepted his decision. King Adekunle had two sons. The first was Ajayi. Ajayi was calm and gentle. He greeted elders with respect. He helped the poor quietly. The people loved him because he treated everyone fairly, whether rich or poor. The second was Adisa. Adisa was strong and clever, but his heart was never at rest. He wanted more than his share. He watched others with suspicion. He hated being second in anything. Everyone in Omiala knew the tradition. When the king joined his ancestors, the crown would go to the first son. That son was Ajayi. Even Adisa knew this truth. He smiled in public. He bowed before his father. But deep inside his heart, something dark was growing. Jealousy began to burn quietly. It whispered to him at night. It followed him during the day. And little by little, it started to poison his thoughts. When King Adekunle finally died, sorrow covered Omiala like a dark cloud. The king did not die suddenly. He grew weak day by day. When his breath finally left him, the palace shook with cries. Drums that once called people to meetings went silent. No festival song was played. No flute sounded. Women shaved their heads as a sign of deep mourning. Their eyes were swollen from crying. Men wrapped themselves in black cloth and sat quietly, speaking in whispers. The market closed. The riverbank was empty. For 7 days, the village cried for their king. That very night, the palace was unusually quiet. Oil lamps burned low. Guards stood tired at their posts, heavy with grief. Inside the palace, Ajayi slept deeply. His heart was heavy, but his spirit was clean. He did not know danger was already near. Slowly, like a shadow, Adisa crept into his room. His footsteps made no sound. His breath was steady. His eyes were cold. There was no shouting, no struggle that anyone could hear, no warning, only betrayal. Before the moon crossed the sky, Ajayi was dead. The future king of Omi-Ala lay lifeless on his bed. His blood soaked into the mat where he once slept in peace. Adisa stood there in silence. He looked at his brother's face. There was no pity in his heart. By morning, the palace was filled with screams. People ran in confusion. Elders beat their chests in shock. Adisa cried the loudest in public. He tore his clothes. He rolled on the ground, pretending to mourn his brother. But blood was still fresh on his hands, and guilt followed him like a shadow. Fear entered Omi-Ala that day. The air felt heavy. The birds flew away early, and something dark began to settle over the village. Tradition demanded Ajayi's crown. The elders knew it, the priests knew it, the people knew it. According to the law of the land, the throne belonged to the first son. Ajayi's name had already been spoken in prayers. His crown had already been prepared. But Adisa ignored tradition. Before the elders could meet, before the rites could begin, Adisa acted. He moved fast like someone who feared the truth. With armed guards beside him, he stood in the palace courtyard and declared himself king. Swords flashed in the morning sun. Spears blocked every entrance. The elders were shocked. Some opened their mouths to speak, but fear sealed their lips. Anyone who questioned him was beaten. Old men were pushed to the ground. Young men were dragged away. Anyone who protested disappeared. Some never returned home. Some returned broken and silent. The palace that once held wisdom now held fear. As if killing his brother was not enough, Adisa forcefully married Ajayi's wife. The woman cried and begged. Her tears wet the palace floor. She wore royal cloth, but her heart was in chains. Her laughter died. Her voice became quiet. The people watched helplessly. No one dared to speak. No one dared to fight. The village cried quietly. Mothers cried into their wrappers at night. Fathers looked at the ground in shame. The drums no longer sounded joyful. The river no longer sang happily. And somewhere beyond human eyes, the gods listened silently. Adisa ruled with cruelty. From the day he sat on the throne, kindness left the palace. Mercy no longer had a place in Omiala. He seized farmlands that did not belong to him. Families woke up to find their crops destroyed. Yams were taken away by force. Those who complained were flogged. He collected heavy taxes. Even the poor were not spared. If a man could not pay, his goats were seized. If he still could not pay, his house was pulled down. He took men's wives. Guards went from house to house at night. Crying women were dragged to the palace. Husbands knelt and begged, but their tears meant nothing. He murdered innocent villagers, sometimes for small mistakes, sometimes for no reason at all. Blood stained the land, and the earth grew tired of drinking it. Corruption filled the land. Truth was sold. Lies were rewarded. Those who served Adisa grew rich overnight. Fear replaced laughter. Children no longer played freely. People spoke in whispers, even in their own homes. At night, doors were locked early. One day, the elders gathered courage. They walked slowly to the palace, leaning on their staffs. Their hearts shook, but they spoke with respect. They begged him to remember the gods. They reminded him of tradition. They warned him that no throne built on blood lasts forever. Adisa laughed, a loud, careless laugh, a laugh without fear. Then he turned to his guards and said, "Lock them in prison. Let them rot." The elders were dragged away like criminals. Their staffs fell to the ground. Their voices were silenced. From that day, no one spoke again. Mouths closed, hearts trembled, and Omi-Ala sank deeper into darkness. Adisa became proud. Power entered his head like strong wine. The more people feared him, the bigger his heart became. He no longer listened to advice. He no longer remembered that kings are servants of the land. He sat on the throne with his chest out and his head high. His voice echoed through the palace as he shouted, "I am God in this land. I give life. I take life. Who can question me?" The guards cheered to please him. The palace echoed with fake laughter. But outside the palace walls, the wind grew uneasy. Unknown to Adisa, the ancient gods of Omiala were watching. They had watched his betrayal. They had watched the blood he spilled. They had listened to the cries of widows and orphans. The river stopped singing at night. Trees dropped their leaves too early. Animals became restless. When the chief priest finally came, he did not come with anger. He came with fear in his eyes and truth in his mouth. He carried a sacred staff and white chalk of warning. He told Adisa to kneel and make peace with the gods. He spoke of sacrifice. He spoke of judgment. But Adisa's heart was already stone. He became furious. His face twisted with rage. He insulted the priest before the guards. He beat the priest, humiliated him, and threw him into prison like a common thief. The priest's white robe was stained with blood. His sacred staff fell and broke. That was the final insult. The sky darkened without rain. The wind paused, then sighed deeply. And far beneath the ground, the earth began to tremble slowly. 7 years passed. They did not pass peacefully. They crawled by slowly like wounded animals. The land dried up. The soil cracked open like broken pottery. Crops refused to grow. Even when people planted, nothing came out. The river became thin and weak. Fish disappeared. Women returned home with empty pots. Children were born sick. Some could not cry. Some could not walk. Mothers prayed day and night, but fear stayed in their eyes. Nightmares filled the village. People woke up screaming. They dreamt of blood, snakes, and falling crowns. Sleep became a burden. Dogs howled at nothing. Birds flew away from Omi-Ala. The air felt heavy, as if something unseen was moving. One terrible night, thunder shook the sky. Lightning tore the darkness apart. Rain did not fall, yet the wind roared like an angry spirit. People woke up from sleep, their hearts pounding. Chickens flapped wildly in their pens. Even the bravest men hid inside their houses. At the edge of the village, the forbidden shrine began to shake. Old stones cracked, dry trees bent low. With a loud, frightening sound, the shrine split open. From the darkness crawled the giant python. It was long like a flowing river, thick like the oldest tree in the forest. Its scales shone under lightning like wet iron. Each movement made the ground tremble. Its breath sounded like heavy drums. The earth seemed to recognize it and moved aside. The python did not look at villagers. It did not chase children. It did not destroy houses or farms. It had one purpose. Slowly, it moved straight to the palace. The palace guards were frozen with fear. Some dropped their weapons and ran. Some fell to the ground and could not stand again. Inside the palace, Adisa was sleeping on his soft bed. He dreamed of power. He dreamed of praise. Suddenly, the room grew cold. When Adisa opened his eyes, he saw death staring at him. 2 glowing eyes filled the room. A massive shadow covered the walls. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Before he could scream, the python wrapped around his body. Its strength crushed him. His bones ached. His crown fell from his head. His breath left him. His pride vanished. All his power meant nothing. Slowly, silently, the python swallowed Adisa whole. The palace became quiet again. But the night was not yet over. By morning, Omi-Ala was no longer the same. People stepped out of their houses slowly. They looked around in fear and confusion. Then they began to notice strange things. All Adisa's guards were found dead. Some lay at the palace gate. Some lay in the corridors. No wound was on their bodies. It was as if fear itself had killed them.
The prison doors were wide open. No lock was broken. No key was found. Prisoners walked free. Men who had waited years in darkness saw sunlight again. Elders stepped out weak but alive. The chief priest walked out silently, his eyes full of knowing. And inside the palace, the throne stood empty. No king sat there. No crown rested on it. Adisa was gone. No blood trail, no body, no trace. The people gathered at the palace courtyard. They whispered, they trembled, they waited. Unknown to the villagers, Adisa was already in the belly of the giant python, wrapped in darkness, paying for every cry he ignored, every life he destroyed, every law he mocked. The village slowly began to breathe again. Drums returned, soft at first, then louder. Women sang, children laughed again. The land healed. Rain returned, crops grew, the river sang once more at night. The elders gathered under the Iroko tree. Their voices were calm but heavy with truth. They said, "Evil may look sweet at first, but its end is always bitter." Till today, elders warn children at night, around fires and moonlight. Never mock the gods. Never steal what is not yours. Never build your power on blood. Because justice may come, slowly, quietly, but it always comes. And deep in the forests of Omiala, the ground still remembers. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel to watch more amazing stories like this. Like, share, and drop your comment below.